Stitchy Tube. Let's stay up late tonight at Stitchy Tube. It's 10 o'clock and it's Saturday night. Hey everybody. I think this is on. Is this thing on? Am I on? Are you on? Are we all on? Good evening. Good evening. It's the weekend and I'm doing such a better job lately of taking weekends kind of off. It's not that I didn't do any work today. I just did less. The plan tomorrow is to really just have fun and have kind of a crafting day for the most part. I have a few business things. I'm always doing a little business. But tomorrow's Father's Day. Today is the 20th of June. Where did the year go? Not where did the month go? Where did the year go? I thought Christmas was just over. And I was mentioning that this week, you know, the hobby stores will be putting up the Christmas stuff like in 2 weeks. So how'd that happen? What on earth? What on earth? What on Pluto? What do they say on Pluto? They probably still say what on earth. Okay, so it is Saturday night. It's 10 o'clock. I'm kind of turning into a late night person. I always used to be the kid at the sleepover that went to sleep first. And I'm just not that way anymore. And I actually have been kind of having trouble sleeping lately. I have a hard time going to sleep and I have a hard time staying asleep. The reason I have a hard time going to sleep is there's a lot to do and I'm having a good time. The reason I have trouble staying asleep is cats. Cats that go, hey, we like food. And you, but we also like food. And so they wake me up early. Right, Hamrock? Oh, Hamrock. You and I have been together for almost a year. I don't know how long I've been Hamrock. But I'm stitching tonight, and I kind of got like bit by the nostalgia bug today, so I thought I would just chat with you because I wish I had a friend over right now. So if I talk to you, it'll feel like I have a visitor. Hey, Briar. Hey, Briar. What you doing? And, I'm dyeing some fabric this weekend, which I haven't done since before Galleria, so that's kind of fun. But I'm working on Walter still. Here's Walter. Isn't he pretty? This is Ann Thomas by Hands Across the Sea. It's a ton of fun to work on. I've pretty much fully filled in the Walter part in the center there, except I have like like he's in kind of a moon shape. And so I just have to kind of finish this top part of the moon here. And so right now I'm working on this motif right here, which is more like kind of primitive looking. It's interesting. It's not as shaded as some of the other areas. I was talking to Beth Twist today, designer for Heartstrings Samplery. And I was saying how this pattern is making me use different parts of my brain. I used to stitch things that were shaded like that. You know, like I've done Teresa Wentzler's, which holy shading Batman. That's like blending fibers and all that kind of stuff. And then, once you get to doing samplers, you're doing shapes, just general shapes. And it's not as much shading anymore. Like you might be using sampler threads, that kind of thing, but you're not, I don't know. It's just, so like Walter here is more shaded, and it's not confetti stitching, but it's not like sampler motifs typically. So it's just, it's a different type of stitching than I'm accustomed to lately. I used to stitch, Beth and I then got to talking about, just the types of designs that we used to do back in the day. And she said she had done one of the lavender and lace brides for a friend of hers who got married. And I did a lavender and lace bride for my brother and his wife when they got married. And so, now we both do samplers and stuff, but it's kind of fun to do this shading thing again. Do I think I have the rest of this thread here somewhere? Yes, I do. And, you just kind of, it's just a different type of stitching, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. I love that it's in silk and it's kind of crazy colors. Like there's a cobalt bright, like electric blue, and there's like a hot, like melon color. And they're nothing that I would have picked off the wall. Like if you pointed me to a wall of silks, I would have said, boy, those are kind of outlandish colors, but they're actually very pretty and they're really fun to work with. This pattern is not discontinued or anything. I do sell it on my site, and I've got it in stock right now. It is also charted for DMC, so if you wanted to just go the easier route and use your stash, you can totally do that. But I'm having a really good time with it. I'm stitching it on a piece of fabric that I dyed last year, and I like it. So anyway, Beth and I were talking about, like, how's coronavirus in your neck of the woods, and she was saying that she and her friends were saying, like, this summer will maybe feel more like the 80s, the summers in the 80s used to feel, because we're all just going to be spending a lot more time with our families, and maybe our schedules are going to be a little bit less full of activities and things. And really, that's how things used to be. We didn't have the internet. Flying somewhere used to be such a luxury. Like, we hardly ever flew anywhere. It was kind of every 5 years we might take a plane trip to see grandma or whatever. Not even. I mean, it was not often. And one time we drove all the way to New Jersey from North Dakota. And even telephone calls used to be, you didn't make long distance calls hardly ever. If you did, it was like, okay, you can talk for 10 minutes because it's so expensive. So I just feel like she's right, that this summer may feel a little more like things used to feel, in that things are just kind of slow. The pace is slowed down. It's a little closer to home. Kids may be staying home and running through the sprinkler instead of, being part in all kinds of clubs and groups and things. And I think that's all right. I think, some of this stuff we got away from just because we were able to. And maybe it's a good idea to kind of, keep things a little bit more simple. Right, Zero? Zero knows all about simplicity. He's all about it. So this weekend, like I said, I've been dyeing fabric. I dyed some fabric and am running it through its process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll iron that. But I've had a lot of people asking about the, what is it called? The shrinking violet that I make. Blue Flower Designs did a design on the shrinking violet, and I haven't dyed any for a long time, and I have like half a dozen or more people that are like, can I get a piece of that? So I dyed it up. We're working on it. We'll have some this week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so I'm working on that. That's nice. I do really enjoy dyeing fabric, as a matter of fact. I just haven't had time for it. And finally, I feel like business is slowing down enough that I'm catching up on some long overdue things. Things that had been hanging over my head. This week I got through the Brenda Gervais Coming to America piece is going to be released at the end of the summer, right? Late August, early September. And sign-ups went through last Sunday. And on the 15th, this Monday, I had to give her my total numbers on how many people signed up. And of course, that entailed me in 1 and in 2. That entailed me having to add up how many people signed up. And I've been keeping a running list, so it's nothing that I waited until the end to make a list. I added people all along. I originally thought I would fall somewhere between 200 and 300 people signing up, and I ended at 617, which is a fair bit. And I'm excited about that. I think that's great. People are really happy and anxious to get their hands on it. I did have somebody say, well, you're not going to sell any overseas. Au contraire, mon frère. Mon frère. I don't know what au contraire, monsieur. I don't know. There are people overseas that are getting the Coming to America, which I think is great too. And, I've had a few people say that they can trace their lineage back to some of those original settlers, which I think is really, really neat. So then I had to do that list, get all the numbers together. I'm kitting it 5, 6, 7, 8 different ways. You can get it with hand-dyed linen in 32, 36, and 40 count. You can get it with Aida. You can get it with no fabric or threads. Or you can get it with the fabric and the threads, but the fabric that was called for, which was Vintage Country Mocha by Zweigert. And so I made a lot of options available. I'm glad I did it that way. I think everybody's got different needs as far as like what they like to do. Some people like to do it as called for. But I also really liked the idea of using the X-Jude fabrics because people are really enamored with her fabric. It's really, really nice, and we found a color that's going to be great. So all the orders had to go in through the thread companies, so I was ordering thousands of skeins of thread. And so I got that done this week. And then this week I also had a kind of a surprise thing that we're going to work on making another 250 now. I should have more in 4 weeks. I had this idea to do, people have been asking me to do a club, right? Like a stitching club thing, like a lot of other shops do. And I love the idea of a club. I like the idea of sending people something in the mail that it's a surprise. They don't know what they're getting. And, but there are parts of it that I don't love. I don't love that people are roped into continuing to buy them, whether or not they want them, can afford them, have time for them, whatever. Because when you sign up with a lot of clubs, you're expected to finish out the club. I don't love that designers sometimes are kind of restricted by the shop's likes and dislikes. So a shop might say, well, we're going to kit it, but you can only use this fabric company and you can only use these threads and it has to be this count. And we have a theme, and this is the theme, and we need it to be, between this size, and we need it in August. Like, it just ends up being too much. And designers are creative people, and I think sometimes when you kind of give them too much in terms of what you're looking for, then you end up getting something that is different than what they might do if you said, you do whatever you like. If you have a great idea, go for it. So I contacted a bunch of my designer friends, some of whom who had never been asked to be in a club, and they were all pretty tickled. And I think I have about 8 so far that have said yes. And this week was the first one. And I'm calling it the I Don't Want to Belong to Another Club. It's not a club. It's an anti-club. You do not join. I do not allow you to join. You have to be just subscribe to my newsletter, and I'm sending out news that way. So what happened with this club is Lori Markovic, who I had asked months ago to make a club piece, she emailed me and said, hey, I was supposed to do a retreat, and the retreat got canceled due to the coronavirus, but I still have this piece I designed. Can I send you 250 kits? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. And I thought 250 is not going to be enough, but I don't look a gift designer in the mouth. And so I said 250 will be great. And it's hard to get fabric now, so kitting is tricky. Am I doing this right? I am. The last time I stitched like this on this piece with you guys, I made a couple mistakes, and I've had to navigate my way around my mistakes because I refuse to rip them out. I blame Sister Eugenia. She's no longer with us. God bless her. She was my first grade teacher, and when we started first grades, you get the list of school supplies, right? And the school supplies included red pencils. And the first week of school, she made us take a scissors and cut off all of our erasers on our pencils. Because she said, you need to fully acknowledge your mistakes. So if we were writing something and we made a mistake, we were not allowed to erase it. We had to circle it with red pencil and then redo it. I don't know what her thinking was. I'm just going to blame Sister Eugenia. I feel it's fair. It's not fair. I don't know why. So, where was I going with that? Okay, so Lori said I'm going to send you 250. They're going to be ready in, I think she said 2 weeks or something. Oops, do I have something that's beeping? All right, I'm going to go handle that, but I'm going to edit out when I'm gone. I'll be right back. We'll beep. And then it'll beep at once a minute until you come shut it off because it's just stubborn like that. Okay, Sister Eugenia, Lori Markovic. So Lori sent me 250 kits with the understanding that I would have to hold aside a certain number for the people who were originally going to go to that retreat. they wanted dibsies. So at 10 o'clock Tuesday night, I want to say, I sent a newsletter out that said, club's available. Nobody had ever heard of the club except some people very close to me. So they sold out. By morning, they were gone. And people were upset. But we're making, within hours, we had already made plans, and we will have 250 more in about a month. So mid-July. And I think that's all Lori wants to make, because one of the things the kit comes with is a decorated pin that she hand makes, and she said they're really a pain in the neck to make. So she wasn't super thrilled about making another 250 of them. Anyway, so the idea of the club is just that it's going to be sometimes. I don't know when. You can't sign up. I actually have plans to do one myself, and you just can only get them through me. The designers, like a lot of clubs, will have the ability to use the pattern at a later date for something if they want to release it as a chart. I just thought it would be a fun way to do a club where the designers have fun and the stitchers also have fun by just lifting a lot of the restrictions. Now, I know that there are going to be people that are angry. I'm so sorry. I wish I could make everybody happy. Some people were super upset that they went to bed and woke up and something wonderful had happened and they missed it. And there's literally no way for me to time anything or do anything where everybody feels like they got a fair shake. I am restricted by the number of kits that I can get. It's not that the other thing would be just not to do it at all. Because even with the club kits that some of the shops run, people get mad about this, that, and the other thing. And so really, it's just meant to be happiness. It's just meant to be happiness. 1, 2, 3. Where was I going with that? Okay, so they had that this week. We had, 350 orders come in Tuesday night, and it took us a few days to get all through those. And then I did the Coming to America, and then I also finished last week, finally, my ABC Schoolgirls sampler for the Country Sampler in Wisconsin, in Spring Green. And it was supposed to be done in April, and it got done in June. And I stayed up very late for very many nights. I stitched that model myself because originally when I committed to the group, just like I did last year, you're kind of thinking like your year looks the same. Year to year, it's like, okay, so, Christmas will come, I'll get ready for market. Market will happen in March. By the time, the market rushes over, I'll finish this piece up and I should be able to have it done by the end of April. Well, number one, market was crazy. It was we had thousands of orders. And it really just, it still continues, that we just still are very, very busy. And then the other thing that happened is my gallbladder gave out. And I ended up in the hospital in, I don't remember when it was, January or February. And so I had to have gallbladder surgery on April 1st. And then, even though I was still so busy, I had to send my workers home for 3 weeks due to the state's COVID restrictions. So I just had too much to do and not enough manpower, and it got pushed back. So I did finish it. It is the Dolly Fowl sampler, the 4 Lions sampler is what I'm calling it. I will go get it so you guys can see it right now. I had to finish that stitch off. Now I'm going to leave this one in. You guys can watch my butt walk to get this sampler. I don't know, where is it? Here it is. So this was the antique I bought. I bought the antique two years and some months ago for my birthday. I got money for my birthday and I found a sampler on Etsy, and the seller is Pebble Beach. What is it called? Like Pebble Beach Vintage or something like that. They sell antiques, and it's kind of a continuation of their grandmother Shirley's business. And grandmother Shirley passed away, and so they're selling some of her antiques. And Grandma Shirley used to operate a couple of different like antiques, like in an antiques mall, she would have a space, and she did that with friends, and she would travel the country looking for antiques and bring them back. And she mainly did it for the love of it, but she had a special fondness for samplers and had quite a collection of samplers herself. So this is the antique that I bought with my birthday money, the Dolly Fowle sampler, Fowle. And there it is. And I think it's very pretty and very unusual. One of the things that I really liked about it, besides like a lack of verse stitched over one, it's nice to have a break from that sometimes, is that the alphabet, here's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, is sprinkled throughout the sampler. And I thought that was really, really cool. I don't normally go for samplers that are this matchy-matchy, but Dolly did a pretty okay job, but it's not as symmetrical as you think it is. Things are not centered. Like that tree is not centered. You can see where this motif is here is not centered over the tree. And so even though you don't notice that, it adds to the texture and the feeling of the sampler. Here's Dolly Fowle's name down here. I liked that it's just in 6 colors. I like this little repeating basket. I think it's very pretty. There's just something really special about the sampler to me. I have shown it to some friends and they were really charmed by this minimalist border with no flowers. And I think that's really cool. You don't see samplers like, oh, I'm sorry. You don't see samplers like that. Well, now you do. You did see a sampler like that just now. So here's how mine turned out. Now this is on 36 count. And so you can tell it's bigger for sure. I think I measured that and it's in the description in the chart. And it's like 60 one way and like 48 the other way. So it's uneven weave, the other one is. But it's a lot smaller and the stitches are tiny, absolutely tiny. And it made charting this tricky in some ways. This is not a true reproduction in that I had to take some liberties with how things were spaced and situated so that it would look like the original, but that things wouldn't end up weird. She had trouble counting on that tiny, tiny linen. And so things were off here, there, and everywhere. But I think you definitely get the feel of the whole thing. I think it's pretty. I think it turned out really nice. It's stitched on 36 count parchment by Weeks Dye Works in 6 colors of Weeks Dye Works threads. And so that is available now. There are, I know there were 450 people signed up for the club. I am the first piece. I know the kits were going out this week. And the last time I talked to Jean, she said that she could possibly take more people in the club if you wanted to join. There are 3 other designers that are participating in it. And I know it's Vicky from Needlework Press. I think it might be Samplers. Actually, just let me look it up because then that way I can tell you things that are true and not things that are fake news. Let me see. Country Sampler. We'll see if we can find it on her website. I realized last time that okay, let's see. Popular categories. Does she have clubs? Let's see. Let's do Country Sampler Spring Green ABC Girls Club. I was in this last year also. Okay, 2020. Okay, so it's called the Schoolgirl Sampler Society this year, not the ABC Club. So it is me, and then Kim from Samplers Not Forgotten, Vicky from Needlework Press, and then Linda Danielson from Samplers Remembered. And so you don't know what you're getting, but we're all doing samplers, like it's a sampler, reproduction sampler club. And I know people really had fun last year. Last year I think it started off at 250 people, and we went to 450 real quick. So, and she's just real nice to work with, Jeannie is. So I got that done too, and we had to print 450 charts and pack them and ship them, and it was, it ended up being like 150 pounds of charts, which is crazy. It's a lot. And that's that. So those are 3 big things I got done this week. The Lori Markovic, I Don't Want to Belong to Another Club, the Brenda Gervais thing, and then this club. And I feel like a humongous weight has been lifted from my shoulders and other places, because that's a lot to plan for and accomplish, in addition to operating a very busy web store. And so Graham is going to move home in about a month. His friends are dispersing, and he's going to be home for a bit and then maybe move to Topeka. But I'm losing Katie, my other employee, and she's done such a great job and picked up on the business so quick. I'm really going to be missing her because she's a great help in packing orders. And she's just got a really good attitude. So I will miss her. The thing is, I'm not really looking to hire anybody else to come to my home and work. It's just weird, right? I don't mind if Graham works here. I didn't mind if his friend worked here. But I'm not looking at going out into the community and finding people to come to my house. So I'm still looking at getting into a shop. I need to call my guy to find out where the building plans are at. But I am just kind of looking forward. And I don't mean looking forward like, I'm enjoying thinking about it. I am. But I'm anticipating greatly being able to start divvying up some of the things that I do in a day to give me more time to design, stitch models. I would love to dye more fabric, make videos, that kind of thing. I still have to do things like pay bills. I have a lot that I do in a week, and that's not a complaint at all. It's just I need to start shucking some of the things that aren't things I necessarily have to do by myself. So, one of the things that I lined up this week is I'm moving up in the printer world. We are in the process of killing our third printer in a year. I participate in this program through a company that works with Xerox, where the printer is free, but you buy the ink from them. And I had done that for a number of years, even back when I had my other shop. The problem is that the printers are not made like they used to be made. And I've been having trouble keeping them going. And part of it is just our volume. It's not the printer's fault, really. I've been trying to run a marathon in KEDS, essentially. That's a pretty good. I was captain of the analogy team in high school. We just need to step up to the next level. So I knew that I think Brenda Gervais does a lot of her printing at home, and I think Kathy Barrick historically has too. And I thought, well, what can I do? Because we do print at home, which I love being able to print on demand. If I need another 100 of something, I just print them. I don't have to call anyone or go anywhere. But I need a better quality printer that's going to be reliable, more affordable, and just faster even, that can print charts faster. So I called a local business that specializes in printers. And so they would be a company that would lease one to a bank or a dental office or, other businesses. And I talked to a guy named Greg, and he's very, very nice. And he's already written me up a proposal, which I'll sign on Monday. And I'm going to have a new printer. And it's going to be more like a big deal, like no foolin' printer. It's going to be, I have one now that's about 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet. It's bigger than what you would use just in your home office. It scans and it copies and it collates. But this is like a $15,000 printer that I don't pay for. I just lease it. And so I'll have a lease price of like $179 a month. And then my ink, they just charge me per copy. So my black and white prints are going to be a penny a piece for ink. And the color ones are going to be 5 cents a piece for ink, which is way less than I pay now. Right now, if I need new ink to print charts, if I need to buy a whole batch of black, magenta, cyan, and yellow, $1,000. It's $1,000. And so, I would say like at market time, we probably went through $3,000 to $4,000 worth of ink getting ready for market. That's a lot. It's a lot. And so this will allow me to print like full color all the way to the edges color covers, and color pictures on the inside. So it's just like the quality of my charts is going to go up. And then I'm thinking, I talked to Beth about it today. I know that, like, for me, when I chart something that's going to be a, I need somebody to stitch a model. Either I'm going to stitch it or somebody else is going to stitch it. I typically print off that chart with black symbols over colored squares. Okay? So it'd be similar to what you see on a Brenda Gervais chart, where it's a color chart. So there is a symbol, but there's color behind it. And it's just, to me, it makes it easier to see. In fact, I'm doing this now. I don't think Nicola will mind if I hold this up just from this afar. But see how it's color? There are symbols, but the chart is color, and it just, for me, it's easier to follow. I know not everybody likes that, but I'm thinking that since I'm going to have this ability, I may start offering, at least just through my website, the option to get a color copy of the chart instead of a black and white copy. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just for people who prefer it. Because I think some people do. I know some people don't. Did I do this right? I sure did. Okay, so that's one of the things I got going on this week. So in order to have the copier delivered, I want to pull everything out of here and have somebody come and shampoo the carpets. And then I got to shampoo the carpet in the other room, the other bedroom, since Graham is moving home. Right now, it is full of empty boxes and boxes of shipping supplies. Because we order, thousands of, like mailers, bubble mailers, paper mailers, things like tissue paper, boxes, cardboard boxes. We order all of that now in huge quantities. I used to, when I ran my store here in town, I did much, I still had a pretty good business, but I would ship, maybe 100 orders a week on average, I would say. And now we're doing 100 a day is, I would say, the average. But then we can have days like Tuesday where we had 350. And so it's just, we need a lot more mailers. I used to just go get my mailers at Sam's Club. And so I would just pick them up once in a while, however many I would need. So I'm going to lose that space. We just have to do some rearranging around here, which is totally, totally fine. It seems like I just talked myself through a circle, and now I don't remember what my original point was. Does it matter? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But I feel like it's summer. I went outside today, and we're feeding the birds and the possums and the squirrels. And, okay, what are we going to do here? So that goes there, and this goes like that. So anyway, we got a bird bath. We got a bird bath the other day, and nobody's taken a bath in it yet. So I don't know if I need to go out and demonstrate for them, or I'm not sure. I just hope nobody drowns in it. The grackles are back, which we hadn't seen the grackles for a while. The blue jays are all about the peanuts, as are the squirrels. And it just feels like summer. I went on the deck today to put seed out and my bare feet, and I was like, ooch, my feet are hot. And it gave me a nostalgic feeling for summer, the way it used to be when I was a kid. I just remember, you go out in your swimsuit and you go run through the sprinkler and you step onto the pavement of the driveway and your feet have that burning feeling. It's I don't know, sometimes certain sensory experiences can take you back decades. I remember as a 30-year-old mom, I fell and scraped my knee playing with my kids outside. And it just it was like a time machine, that sensation of scraping my knee. I had forgotten what it felt like. And then just scraping it, all of a sudden I was transported back to childhood and remembering what that sensation felt like. It hurts like the devil, Did I do this right? I did. This basket needs to be symmetrical. But anyway, so Beth was talking about, we were talking about how this summer may feel like more like the 80s used to feel. And so then I was thinking like, well, what did my summers feel like when I was young? You know, I feel like I did some babysitting for sure. You know, kids that were home during the summer, but maybe the parents worked or they needed to go somewhere. I did babysitting. And I used to make $1 an hour. And so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I did a fair bit of babysitting. I remember, you know, I was reading recently that like fireflies are on the decline because there's so much light pollution now that they have trouble finding each other. You know, they used to light up to find their mate, and now there's so much light in neighborhoods that they just can't find each other in the darkness because their lights are overblown by the light of street lights and such. I remember running through the sprinkler. We did that. We always were in a lot of summer activities, and so like in the summer, we usually did swimming lessons at 8 o'clock in the morning because everybody wants to get up when it's still 58 degrees and put on their swimsuit and jump in a cold pool. And so we would ride our bikes to South High with our swimsuits and our shorts because we would go to swim lessons and then we would go to tennis, which was right there at South High also. And I played softball most summers up until 6th grade, I think was my last year. By the way, I'm not that athletic. I was in a lot of sports. I think the best I was at any sport was golf, and I wasn't great at that either. So, but I did them. I did sports. And we played a lot with kids we had kids on our block that I knew. A good friend of mine, Michelle Cupic, lived just down the street. I had a friend named Lois Desatel who lived across the street, and she was 2 years older than I was. And so when I was in 6th grade and she was in 8th was about the time we stopped hanging out together because she went to high school and then I wasn't really cool anymore. But we used to hang out at her house. She was the youngest and I was the oldest. So it was cool to have like the bigger siblings. Like I thought her siblings were really cool. But we would play like board games. She had the Happy Days game that we used to play. And we played a lot of Barbies where I just played a lot of Barbies as a kid, which is funny because I'm not that girly of a girl, but for some reason I really liked the domesticity of Barbie. And so we would like build houses. Hang on, I gotta count. Okay, so one more. And have Barbies just make food and do domestic type things. And then skip 1 and 4. So we would play Barbies, and I remember one time her mom made us parfaits, like Oreo parfaits in flutes, like with whipped cream and stuff. And I was like, this is the height of luxury. I cannot believe she has a mother that can do that. It like blew my mind. A parfait blew my mind as a kid. We would go to the movies. Mom would drop us off at the movies, and I remember that they costed $1.25. And we pretty rarely had the money to also get like popcorn or candy, and so we would frequently bring a brown paper sack full of home popcorn, and then the oil would like leak through the sides, so we'd take these greasy bags. And God bless those workers, they never stopped us. Like we just took our popcorn in. And we'd put our can of soda in a bag and carry that in. But we would see like the Disney movies that would come out, and I remember, I guess when I was 12, 1982, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I went and saw that movie a couple of times, and of course all the original Star Wars movies too. But we would play with friends. We would play games in the yard a lot. One of them was Green Ghost. I think it was called Green Ghost. And I don't really remember I don't remember. It was kind of like a tag kind of a game, but also like with hide and seek, and you would have home base or something like that. We would play this game with a ball on either side of the garage. So you'd stand one of you would stand on one side of the garage and the other person would stand on the other side of the garage, and you would take a ball, like maybe a tennis ball, and yell ollie ollie and come free, and you would throw the ball over the garage, and then the person on the other side would just try to catch it, and then they would yell ollie ollie and come free, and then they would toss it over. My friend Lois and I, and my cousin Darcy too, used to play Charlie's Angels. This would have been back in the 70s. And so we always used to fight over who got to be, is it Jacqueline Smith? The beautiful lady with like long brown hair. But we would have guns and we would run around the house and pretend to be in our swimsuits and pretend to be the Charlie's Angels. And then my cousin Darcy lived just like 2 blocks over. You know, it was just like a 5-minute walk to her house. And so we did a lot of sleepovers, and then I went to her lake a lot as a kid. And so then we swam a lot in the lake. We walked along the country roads. There was a couple of summers. Did I do this right? In one and all the way across. There were a couple of summers that we were so way into Granny Smith apples. I don't know what that was all about. But we would like get a 5-pound bag at the start of the weekend, and we would just eat a 5-pound bag of Granny Smith apples. We would take paring knives out and just peel the apples and play games in the tent and stuff. We used to play like Masterpiece. And Masterpiece? There were a number of different board games like Life and Monopoly and Clue, some of those great old games. And then we would sometimes set the tent up and sleep outside in the tent overnight. There was the summer that her Samoyed killed a badger, which that was amazing. We didn't see it happen. Her, I don't know, it must have been a sick badger or something. I don't know how a dog could do that, but we would fish. We would go for rides on the boat. Of course, around the 4th of July, we would get sparklers and the worm things that you, 1, 2, 3, 4, that you light them and then they turn into like a swirly whirly kind of carbon worm. And we would drink soda pop, and we would go to church on Sunday morning and just kind of mourn the fact that we weren't in the lake at that moment. But it was a little country church that we would go to. But they were just kind of, in a way, they were really simple times. We were really good kids. Like, we did not get into trouble. We weren't smoking or drinking or, we were just too, when I was with my cousin, we liked to play Barbies, and we liked to play pretend. She had a tape recorder, and we would make radio shows on her tape recorder and like even do commercials and things like that. And make up songs, and we would sing, and we would create dance numbers and do them for our parents. It was a good childhood, really. It was a good childhood. Summers were great. But I was one of those kids that I never really, when it was time to go back to school, I was always ready for it. I wasn't a kid that hated school. I loved the opportunity to do a good job at things. I always liked my teacher and wanted my teacher to think I was a smart and well-behaved student. And I participated in a lot of sports and, like I said, in clubs and things. The older I got, the more I started participating in things like theater and speech and debate and dance lessons. I took piano until I was 16. And so then when I was in 7th grade, I started going to Trollwood Performing Arts School in the summers. And that would be for maybe 6 weeks or 8 weeks. And I would take a bus all the way to the north side of town. And I was there the entire day. And I would do dance class, and I took classes on lighting and classes on makeup and classes on costume design and improvisation classes, singing, ballet, jazz dancing, acting, all of that. And it was super fun. I really, really liked going to that. It was very inexpensive at the time, and I believe the Trollwood Performing Arts School is still in existence. They always did a really high quality play at the towards the end of the summer. And so some of the kids who went to the classes also were in the play. I never tried out for the play because that would you were at Trollwood then from 8 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. And I just did it during the day. So I was there usually like I think 8 to 3 maybe, or 8 to 4, which is still a long time. We always had lunches to ourselves, and I didn't take a lunch usually. Usually I took 31 cents. I'd have a little change in my pocket, and I would, during the 1 hour lunch break, walk to McDonald's and buy an ice cream cone for 31 cents. And I loved it because this particular McDonald's made their cones obnoxiously big. Like, they were hugely big. And one time when they were handing me my cone, the ice cream was like this tall. I mean, it was just super tall. They handed it to me, and the cone just collapsed under the weight of the ice cream. So they had to make me a new one. But that was my lunch a lot of days, was a humongous 31-cent ice cream cone. And then I would dance all day on whatever calories and nutrition were in a 31-cent ice cream cone. Now, I'm sure that I took lunch sometimes. I just remember that. And it just was fun. I met a lot of artistic kids from other schools. And then, of course, by the time I was 15 or 16, I was on the speech and debate team. So then I started going to debate camp in the summer. And I had a summer job. And but summers were always really busy for me. I would say, the most relaxing I did at the summer was when I got to go to the lake with my cousin for the weekend. And that just was such a treat. And, I think we all have friends in our life where, they're friends that you have growing up that you're just bonded to in a way that you don't get bonded to other people. It's similar maybe, but not the same. When you grow up with somebody, and you've slept in the same bed together and told each other scary stories, or, kind of divulged your deepest secrets, and you see each other just turn into people, that those little friends that you have, even though I don't talk to my cousin as often as I should give her a call this weekend, because I was thinking about her today when I was getting all nostalgic. I don't know, that those friends are just the type of people that when you see them, you're so happy to see them. And it's like you just talked to them yesterday. You're just like right back in it. Like, I know you. I know you 100%. I know you. We also used to go sometimes to see my grandparents. They lived in a small community called Brampton, North Dakota, which I think is now considered, I don't even know if it's considered anything anymore. If it's considered like a township. It was a little town, tiny little town on the prairie, a little, kind of German area. And my grandpa was an oil man, so he drove the oil to the farmers and things. That was his job. And so sometimes we would go spend time with my grandma. It seems like we went out there more often when the weather was good. Because I grew up in North Dakota, driving to Grandma and Grandpa's house in the winter was harder, obviously, because it just was snowy and icy. And it was about, I think, an hour and a half to 2 hours from our house. But in the summertime, I remember we used to go play. We used to play with a little kid called Owen across the street, and he was between my brother and I in age. My brother is 3 years younger than I am. His name's Pete. And we would go play with Owen across the street, and he grew up on, a farm basically. They had chickens in coops, and there were berry bushes that grew behind the chicken coops that kind of extended into the chicken coops. And if we were there at just the right time, the berries were ripe, and so we would pick as many berries really as we could eat, and just eat a bunch of berries and play in the dirt and pet baby chicks. And he had a couple of kind of rudimentary playgroundy type of things. When you're a kid growing up in the middle of a tiny, tiny town in the 1970s, there's not a lot to do, and I imagine that TV reception was pretty poor. His parents, I feel like his parents were older than average. And I think he was an only child. So I'm sure his childhood was kind of boring. We always had fun going to see him. It was a novelty for us, but I'm sure for him it was amazing if we came by because he didn't have kids really to play with. But he was a funny little kid. So that's what summers were like. And, you know, we would go swim at South High Pool. So we took lessons there in the morning. And then some afternoons, if it was hot, we would go back and swim again. It was, I don't know how many minutes it would take us by bike. It was probably, you know, a 10 or 15 minute bike ride. We drove our bikes everywhere. I feel like I need lip balm. I'm talking so much. So we would, you know, that was back in the days of, like, I had clothes that were made of terry cloth. Remember terry cloth clothes in the 70s? And then I was way into Dr. Scholl's, the wood kind of, they were like wood sandals where the bottom is like wood, shaped like the bottom of a foot, with a leather strap with kind of a, like a buckle kind of thing on it. So we would drive our bikes, you know, to the pool, and it cost $0.25 to swim. And you could get a pass where you could just swim all summer, and then you would get a little plastic tag with a number on it, and you had to actually sew it to your swimsuit, and then you would just kind of show them your tag and then go in. And you had to take a shower ahead of time, and so they had these like baskets, or not baskets, they were like hanging mesh bags with like a metal like handle. And so it didn't cost any money, but it was basically like they could store your stuff for you, and you would put a little thing around your wrist or your ankle with your number on it so that you could get your stuff. And so sometimes, like a couple of times, when I got my basket thing, my meshy hanging bag, there was $0.25 in it, and it felt like winning the lottery. But you would take a shower, and their showers felt like needles. Like, you know, it was like probably like water efficient showers, and so it felt like getting pierced by 1,000 needles of like lukewarm to cold water to try to take a shower before you went to the pool. But we would swim all afternoon, and you know, it wasn't fancy. It was a pool. It was a rectangle with no diving board. If you went inside the building, they had a diving pool, and you could do that, but that wasn't always open. And then they would play music over the loudspeakers for the the teenagers who were the lifeguards, and it was all 1970s music, you know, Eddie Rabbit, and I don't know who else was popular then, but you know, like all the like the Knack and Devo, and a lot of disco, I suppose, and a lot of kind of classic rock type stuff. But we would swim, and we would do like play tea parties under the water, and we would do handstands, of course, and we would just come up with little games to play in the water. Sometimes, and I loved it when they did, they would let us all walk in a circle around the perimeter of the pool. You would walk as fast as you can and try to create a whirlpool effect with just the kids. And so then they would have you walk and walk and walk and walk, and then they would say, okay, go. And you'd pick your legs up, and then just the force of the water would carry you around. It was so fun. But they usually had they usually had a carnival at some point, like at the pool, where you would go and you could do swimming games to win prizes. I remember I was on a team, and the game we were trying to win, our team wasn't very good. They just kind of paired you up with people. And the game was that they gave you saltine crackers, and each team had 4 people. And then, so there were 2 people on one side of the pool, 2 people on the other, and you had the saltine crackers, so you had to swim to the other side holding the crackers. It was 4 crackers. And then you would hand the crackers to the person that was next, and they would eat the cracker, and then they had to whistle. And they couldn't get in the water until they could whistle. It's very hard to whistle after you've eaten a saltine cracker. Just take my word for it. And then the next person would swim the crackers across the pool. Well, I was the last person to swim with a cracker. And we were we were close to winning. Like, we were pretty, but we could have lost. Like, it was close. I just decided, to heck with holding the cracker above the water. I'm going to just swim with the crackers. And I just did the crawl stroke with holding crackers. So by the time I got there, I had cracker, but it was soggy, like wet pool water cracker. And everybody kind of like was aghast and shocked. And the person ate the cracker. And of course, because it was wet, he whistled no problem because the cracker wasn't dry and crunchy anymore. So we won. I don't remember what we got, but that was like my little moment of victory, I guess, in a way. Swimming with the crackers. But you know, there's all kinds of, I don't know, when you're a kid, I think childhood can seem like such an adventure because you're experiencing things for the first time. And time moves slowly as you're in it. Summer feels eternal. I feel like it does. I went to summer camp, 4-H summer camp, a couple times, 2 or 3 times. And that's where I actually picked up my first needlework kit. Was at the snack bar. They had little, you know, like you could get a little leather making kit, or you could get a little, you know, just different kinds of kits to make like a wallet, that kind of stuff. And they had a needlepoint kit, and I picked one up there. And I think it was like $1 or $2. And I didn't do very well, but I enjoyed it. And, you know, camp was fun. It was, you know, rustic cabins and breakfast around, you know, we sang the Johnny Appleseed song every morning. And did horse rides and swam in the river. And I seem to remember that camp for 3 days, like 3 nights and then parts of 4 days, was $35. And it was really fun. The showers were horrible. I mean, it was pretty darn rustic. I think if I went back there, like if you could magically transport me back to 4-H camp, I would be like, oh my gosh, this place is, how did we not get murdered by a serial killer out here? Because it's just, but I mean, at the time it was just, it's only fun because we had a dance every night. And then they opened the snack bar and we could get like Jolly Ranchers and Bubblicious bubble gum and, you know, marathon bars and all those 1970s candies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was telling my workers this week, I said, I'm old enough now. I feel like, you know, I hit 50 this year, so I feel like now I'm legitimately old. And I said, I'm old enough now, and I think I use this phrase a lot, that I remember soft bubble gum being a thing. When they, Hubba Bubba and Bubblicious, when I was a kid, was new. Those kind of bricks of bubble gum that were soft. And people used to, in my school, they would take their money and they would go to like the gas station and buy an entire box of the Bubblicious bubble gum. And they would sell it at a profit at the school. You know, like they would sell individual pieces or whole packs of it. And I think at one point they told people they couldn't do that anymore, not at school, which is fair. I know my brother got in trouble once because he was selling drawings and he wasn't even very, sorry Pete if you're watching this, he wasn't even very good at it, but he was selling drawings that he did. Kids are so funny. But so maybe this summer will feel like the 80s. Maybe I should see if I can like do some things that'll remind me of the 80s. Eat some pixie sticks and listen to some 70s vibe. But it's funny how you can like, you know, you hear certain music or you smell something or you scrape your knee. And, you know, like your life seems so long, but it seems so short too. But I think childhood especially feels so long when you're in it. Like the length of a school year just seems like 4th grade is like, wow, it just seems so weighty. And now time flies. Like I said, here it is almost July. I feel like it was just Christmas. And what have I been doing with my time? I've been working really hard. And it's not that I don't have fun. I totally do. But maybe I just need to put my bikini on and put on some Dr. Scholl's and slow time down some. I think I really am going to make an effort to, and I started doing that today. I'm kind of starting to go through some of my craft books and like look for ideas. I want to make a quilt. I feel like making a quilt, even though it's hot summer. Look, I finished that basket. I feel like making a quilt, just using fabrics I've got. I realized that when I open my shop, my plan is, like I said, to include quilting fabrics. And so I'm going to have some models. So I don't know how I'm going to accomplish that. But I feel like making a quilt just because I feel crafty. And I think I used to do a lot of crafts in the summer too. Mainly just drawing. You know, my brother and I would draw spaceships, or I would, as a kid, I drew a lot as a kid. I drew, I would take like a picture that I found that I thought was pretty. I think I'm going to divvy this up as long as I'm doing this. Let's say it was a greeting card or a picture from a magazine, and I would just copy it to the best of my ability. I'll have to see if I can find some. I think I've got some here somewhere. But they're just, I feel like as an adult, you don't make as much time for being and just enjoying and just doing things just like because you feel like it. And like, what's living about? You know, I feel like I'm getting all philosophical at 11 o'clock at night, but, you know, life should be fun. And I enjoy my job. I so enjoy my job. I can't tell you still how often I say out loud how thankful I am to be doing what I'm doing. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, I was lucky to ever have a cross-stitch store in the first place. It was my dream. And to be able to do it a second time feels like winning a lottery. It really does. And I just love helping people find stuff that's cool. I love interacting with people who are creative and who are new to stitching or coming back to stitching or who are been stitching forever. It's such a nice community. I got an email yesterday. Did I say this already? I feel like I'm talking in a circle. I don't think so. So I got an email from Moda that sewing right now is the #2 activity in America. They said that people, like all the stores across the nation that like fix sewing machines are like full of machines waiting to be serviced because people are pulling out their old sewing machines, and that starter machines like you could get like at Walmart or Joann's or whatever are like sold out and back ordered everywhere. Everybody is sewing, and the only thing that's topping sewing right now is bicycling. So if you go to somewhere, like we were at Walmart the other day and we went through by the bicycle section, and I said, Steve, there's no bicycles. Like, where are the bicycles? And I thought maybe, it's nobody's shipping bicycles because of COVID. Like, it's just they're stuck overseas. No, it's that everybody's buying bicycles. My sister said that they listed one of her kids' bicycles in like, Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or something. And she said within a short time, they had almost 30 people call to see about getting that bicycle. But sewing is #2, which means this is not far behind. Like, this is right there, I feel like. And I think it's so nice because it's fun. And I think one of the things that I notice now, and I think some of this is due to social media, is that people were stitching before. I started my business in the mid to late 90s. It was 1997. And people were enjoying stitching, and my business was successful. I feel like now people are genuinely overjoyed to be stitching, and they're excited about it, and they're proud of it, and it makes them feel happy to be doing it, and they anticipate getting things in the mail to work on. And I feel like the thing that's different now from what it was is that we're connected, that the stitchers are connected, because I think it used to be like I started stitching in 1980, and I stitched at home on the couch. I didn't know other stitchers. I would walk to the Nordic Needle and spend my babysitting money, $1 an hour, and buy things to stitch and go home and stitch them. And it was something I did. I didn't know anybody else who did it. I didn't talk to anybody else who did it. It is lovely to talk to other people who do it. To say, like, what are you working on? What do you enjoy? How do you like those threads? What kind of fabric do you like? Let me see that. Oh, it's so pretty. What are you going to do next? Because other people, there's no way other people understand this. They just don't. I feel like people, it's something that we have in common with each other. I think people would have an easier time talking to somebody like I'm not a bicycle enthusiast, but I feel like if I met someone who was, I could ask them questions about it and talk about it. No one has any idea what to say about this except, oh, my grandma used to do that, or they, just stuff like that. So I think the difference now is that we're connected. We can get together on Zoom, or we can, FaceTime, or I text. I was talking to Saltbox Stitcher just a bit ago. I called Beth today, and she was saying, you and I wouldn't even really be friends if it weren't for the internet. And I was like, that's so true. And even though we're in the same industry now that we can be so much more connected, it's just great because it added the sense of community to a solitary activity. Stitching is solitary. You can do it entirely by yourself with the cats in a room at 11 o'clock at night. And I think it's great that we all are connected now and we know each other. We see each other on the TV or the computer, and it makes it feel different. It makes it feel not only just like more important and more exciting, but it just feels more joyful. And I think that joyfulness is super valuable. I think I'm going to say it again because I think it's important to know that joyfulness is significant, because we all live. I feel like I'm being very philosophical late at night. It's important, we live. You don't get to choose whether you live or not, and you can spend your life being, doing what you should do. Oh well, I should do that. I should go to the opera. I should dress up and go out to dinner. I should, get a job, and I should belong to the PTA and stuff. I should do this. Like, we should continue doing this, especially if it makes us happy, because it's gone too quickly. And there's too much in the world that's the opposite of joyful. Right, Zero? And so I think, the connectedness of the stitching community and the crafting community, and even just communities in general, I think as negative as the internet can be, I think it has injected joy into this activity that some of us like to do anyway. We like to do it because it's calming, it feels productive, it has beauty, it has worth. The feel of the threads, the sound of the thread pulling through, the moments when you jam a needle under your fingernail, it's an experience, right? And when you're done, you hang it on your wall and you say, look at that beautiful thing that I made. I made that. And people will be like, you made that? How'd you make that? Is it printed on the fabric? No, you count. Really? You count? That there's I don't know. I think adding beauty to the world is a valuable thing to do. And I think that's what we do. And even if it's just adding beauty to our own world by having something to hang up or by giving something to a friend. Beth Twist said today that she stitched that lavender lace wedding thing for her friend. And her friend she ran into not too long ago, and the gift was given long ago, back when lavender and lace was all the rage. And her friend said, I still have that hanging in my living room. That's really cool. Do I have anything else to show? I think I'm going to show one more show and tell. I saw it on the way by when I went and shut the buzzer off. I found this. It's probably dusty. It's probably got cat hair on it. I got this pattern. So Sisters and Best Friends was Amy Brooken, who still designs, and her sister. And they had a design company. And I had this as a shop model. in my shop. I framed it at my shop too. I love this frame. It's a Larson Jewel frame. Oh, it's got purple paint on it. And it's also got cat hair on it. How neat. How nifty. I'll have to give it a good scrub down at some point. So it is this. And it's kind of topical, right? Because it's almost the 4th of July. It says Stars and Stripes in the Heartland. And it has this grain elevator. And the reason I wanted to stitch this was my grandparents lived in Brampton, like I said, a very, 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 very small community. And by the time, I was born, the community was in the process of a long decline. They had some stores on their street, and I know I've talked about Vi's before. Vi had the little family grocery, and she lived in the back and worked in the front, and my brother and I would buy candy there. We would get like Tartan Tinies and Jolly Rancher sticks and Tangy Taffy and Astro Pops, those cone-shaped lollipops, and things like Sweet Tarts and Sprees. My mouth is going to water thinking about all these old candies. And anyway, one of the ways when we would go to Brampton, one of the ways we knew we were almost to Grandma and Grandpa's house was when we saw the grain elevator that looked very similar to this. And my mom would say, who sees Brampton? And we would look and we'd be like, oh, I do, because you'd see the elevator in the darkness. And so that's why I stitched this one, because it had a grain elevator on it. This pattern, of course, is long since discontinued, out of print. I don't have my copy of it anymore. I'm not even sure that the name is Stars and Stripes, or I don't know what it is. It's a Sisters and Best Friends pattern, and it has a couple of Mill Hill. Here's a little bunny, and there's a little red bird here. But I stitched that just kind of in memory of Brampton, which I used to call Grampton when I was really little, because it was where my grandparents lived, and so I called it Grampton. I thought it was Grampton. But that was way out in the country, and that was probably prime firebug land, right, Zero? Well, I thank you for spending some time with me while I talk about the 70s. Somebody's got to, right? And I hope that you guys are having a good weekend. I am looking forward to just spending the day crafting tomorrow. It is Father's Day. And so I don't know what our plan is. I had asked Steve if he wanted to run out and get a swimsuit, but he said he thinks he's good. He's getting ready to head to the lake to spend a month with his parents like he does every summer. And so he will be leaving this week. And, July, here comes July, and I'm sure it'll be a great month. I'm looking forward to it. And you guys have a good week, and I will talk with you soon. Right, Z? Good night.